Okay, everybody. I want to share some inconvenient truths with y'all. Everybody is so worked up over Democrats and Republicans and every issue they can use to divide us black and white, gay and straight, everything. Even to the point of they're weaponizing American companies or worldwide companies. So, what I'm telling you, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm on Google right here, okay? Any stocks out there, any of the markets, they have to list their top shareholders. They have to list, all their transactions, all that stuff. You can find everything, okay? Now, today, the CEO of Cracker Barrel finally resigned. And man, she had everybody up in a roar. They're like, well, Cracker Barrel's gone woke. And, that's a good, solid American company. They're selling alcohol now. And now they're changing the logo and all this. So what happens? People stop going there and they panic sell the stocks. All right. That was all planned, folks. That was all planned. So which one do you think represents America better, Democrats or Republicans? We all know that every politician takes bribes. I mean, they call it lobbying. But you have one group of politicians that'll say, okay, well, those guys they're big pharma, and then the other group of those guys are big oil. Well, let me show you something. I'm on Google right here. You can see this right here. Top institutional shareholders. Okay, BlackRock, GMT Capital Corp, Alliance Asset Management. Okay, and then Vanguard. All right, so I want you to look at that name, BlackRock and Vanguard. Okay. I want to explain something to you. Most people don't understand the stock market. They will hear a big buzzword and they go right out and they waste all their money on a stock, and 90% of them, they lose their behinds. Okay. Let me tell you something about the very wealthy elite. They're in their own game and you're not playing it with them. You are. You are. You're the intended loser on that game. Millionaires can be made when you buy a stock and you hope that it goes up. Tesla made a lot of millionaires, so did Amazon. So, a lot of, there's the AMC theaters a few years ago where people were doing that overnight, and you can certainly do that. Billionaires are made by short selling the stock. Most people don't know what a short sell is. What a short sell is, let's say I've got a stock at $100 a share, okay? And let's say that I know for a fact that those stocks are going to go down to $10 a share. So what I can do is I can go to my broker, and this is mainly reserved on the big deals for accredited investors, which are the elite. There's certain stipulations for accredited investors. You can look that up. But what I'm going to be doing is going to my broker or my money man, whatever. I'm going to say, I want to short 100 shares of AYZ stock at $100 a share. What that means is I'm borrowing 100 shares. Okay. Now, if that price jumps up at any point in time, that broker can call you up and say, "Hey, I need that money for those shares." But what if that stock falls to $1 a share? What if the whole thing just dwindles? Now I'm purchasing back those stocks. So I'm borrowing these stocks. I've already sold them. So I've got the money set aside, right? Like the money is set aside already in an account. Um, so like an escrow account or something. So now when I pay it back, I'm paying it back at $1 a share. So I just made bank. Now, how do we know that the prices are going to go down? Well, that's pretty easy, folks. It's called market manipulation 101. It's illegal as hell. But when you have BlackRock and Vanguard, and let's just say right here, one, two, three, four, the top four, right? Okay. let's look up something else. I want to show you something. A lot of people think Coca-Cola and Pepsi are rivals, right? All right. Well, let's look at this. Shareholders. Now, sometimes there's an exception for the top two. In this case, Berkshire Hathaway is Warren Buffett. He has the vast majority of Coca-Cola. However, Warren Buffett owns 400 million shares. That's Berkshire Hathaway. But if you look right over here, BlackRock holds 333,600,000 shares. Then you got Vanguard right here, 337,400 or 337,400,000 shares. So when you combine these two right here, guess who controls Coca-Cola? BlackRock and Vanguard. Now, let's look at Pepsi shares because those are big competitors, right? All right, look at that. BlackRock, top shareholder. Oh, would you look at that? Vanguard is the number 2 shareholder. But I want to I want to look at something. Let's look at who BlackRock is, okay? Oh, who's the top shareholder of BlackRock? Well, look at that. Vanguard. And then they have self-ownership. So you have two companies that are one and the same. Okay, now here's something that's really funny. Oh, the Vanguard Group has no outsider public shareholder because it is a client owned. The firm is owned by its clients, shareholders who invest in Vanguard's mutual fund and ETFs. Therefore, it's private. But we do know that Vanguard controls BlackRock, right? Well, so the very, very elite, their information is totally private with Vanguard. Let's look at BlackRock's CEO. This man right here is Larry Fink. This man controls the world. He's the most evil son of a bitch in the world. This right here is Satan, okay? He manipulated the market. He started this back in the 80s, and every single publicly traded company, the top 2 shareholders, other than the exception of like Coca-Cola's Berkshire Hathaway, Geico is going to be Berkshire Hathaway. But we can look at any company, and you think that these companies are rivals to each other, and they're not. Some companies like Walmart, the Walton family is still they're still the top shareholder, but close by is BlackRock and Vanguard. Now let's look at BlackRock. BlackRock atrocities worldwide. Okay, so BlackRock is not, yeah, I misspelled that up there, but while BlackRock is not a direct perpetrator of physical violence, human rights groups and United Nations experts have accused the world's largest asset manager of financial complicity in global conflicts and environmental crises through its massive corporate investments. Weapons and conflict, complicity. How about Gaza and Israel? UN experts and human rights organizations have named BlackRock among major financial institutions holding shares in top defense contractors such as Lockheed Martin, RTX, and Boeing that supplied military equipment used in violations of international law. Sudan and China advocacy groups like the Investors Against Genocide have criticized the firm for holding large stakes in Chinese energy giants like PetroChina and Sinopec, which operate closely with state forces linked to severe human rights abuses and regional conflicts. Now, fossil fuel financing, climate activists, and investigative reports frequently target BlackRock as one of the single largest institutional investors in global coal, oil, and gas companies, trying its asset portfolios to long-term ecological damage and community and then deforestation. Now, if you really want to look into this, I'm just using straight up Google, y'all. Look up BlackRock and what they did to some of these African nations. So here's the deal. Let's look at Google. Top shareholders for Google: BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Now, notice we saw that State Street before. I wonder who the top shareholders of State Street are. Hmm. Look at that, BlackRock, Vanguard. Are you seeing something here, guys? Why don't we look at, okay, I tell you what, a lot of people think of Walmart as this great American value company. And the conservatives, they like Walmart, but then they don't like Target because Target went woke and they, didn't know what bathrooms to use and, the swimsuits with the tucking thing or whatever. And, you know, gay, trans, whatever. I mean, that they're just doing that to infuriate people because they want to short sell Target. Now, what they do is they can short sell Target, and they're coming in buying those shares at pennies on the dollar. Let's look at Target's top shareholders. Would you look at that? BlackRock, and then State Street Corporation, and then Vanguard. Oh, Vanguard Capital Management, Vanguard Portfolio Management. Well, let's look at Walmart. Well, okay, so we have the Walton Enterprises, okay? So they own, wow. So that would be the Walton family, all right? They still control Walmart, but close by is Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. So that's enough for some voting shares, for sure. Not to mention, we have some people in the Walton family that married in that have been caught doing some pretty nefarious things with Walmart's money. And we could talk about that some other time, but I'm giving you straight facts, y'all. Straight up facts. Uh, Ford and General Motors are the biggest competitors in the car business, right? Would you look at that? BlackRock owns 330.7 million shares of Ford. Vanguard owns 254.56. State Street owns 192.55. Vanguard Portfolio Management. So overwhelmingly, they can put in whatever CEO they want because CEOs are voted in. Are y'all seeing this now? So if they want GM to spike, okay, good old Americans, they drive Fords, la da da. Okay, let's put in a gay, trans, black um, CEO with a liberal arts degree, and we're going to make all the Fords rainbow colors. Now, before they do that, because they vote all this in, they can fire the CEO at any point in time. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to take all these shares, right? So they have all this money. Now, what they might end up doing is, well, they're going to take all these, but they're going to short sell all these other outstanding shares that they can. Okay, and once they do that, how do you think they get so many of these shares? They short sell. They want the company to tank. They're not for American anything. It's pure greed. Okay, it's pure greed. Now, so here's what happens. So they short sell Ford, or they get Vanguard to somebody, but they're all going to sell out of their regular shares. They're going to take that money. They're going to short sell. Okay, and that's borrowed shares. So they don't even have to have, but they have to have a certain amount in account. But once you're an accredited investor, and when you're a major firm like this, I mean they own all the banks too. Make no mistake, folks. What do you think the Federal Reserve is? Is that a government entity? No, it is not. It is a group of private bankers. And we were hoodwinked with the American Income Tax and Federal Reserve Act. We were completely hoodwinked with that. It's private bankers. They make this money out of thin air because Nixon took us off the gold standard. Top shareholders of Ford, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Then we got Charles Schwab in there. Well, I hadn't heard that name in a long time. But let's go to now. Recently, Trump was bitching about the CEO of General Motors, and they like to move our jobs overseas and stuff like that. And again, it was another woke CEO, right? And some female, whatever. So, but look at that. We have the Vanguard Group. Oh man, and then BlackRock, and then State Street. Well, look at that. There she is, Mary Barra. Yes. so, so I guess the modern successor. All right. So in 2007, Daimler sold the core of Chrysler to Cerebras and later renamed itself Daimler AG, also known as Mercedes-Benz Group. Okay. So, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. The modern Mercedes-Benz Group is publicly traded with major institutional shareholders like BlackRock and large international stakeholders, while the Chrysler brand is presently part of Stellantis. I can't make this up, folks. Why don't we do this? Top shareholders, because Microsoft and Apple are big, or Apple and Samsung even. This would be great. Oh, look at that, BlackRock and Vanguard. Jeez, and then State Street. Man, I swear. I tell you what. All right, so let's go Microsoft. Would you look at that? BlackRock, Vanguard. Oh, wait, Vanguard, then BlackRock, then State Street. Look at that. Now, Bill Gates, he has some shares, but the controlling shares right here. Every publicly traded company. Why don't we do this? Samsung and Apple, big competitors on the iPhone, right? Okay. Okay, so the National Pension Service of South Korea and who else? BlackRock. Would you look at that? BlackRock right there. So they still got 5% of the shares, which is a large amount. You're talking about voting shares, your voting rights. So now let's look up Microsoft. We already determined Vanguard and BlackRock, right? Sony, Japanese company. Master Trust of Japan, Moxley and Company. Okay. Custody Bank of Japan, Government of Norway. Now, let's look at something here. Let's see what this Master Trust Bank of Japan, let's see if that's publicly traded. Top shareholders are Mitsubishi Trust and Banking Corporation, Nippon Life Insurance, okay, Meiji Yasuda. All right, well, let's look up Mitsubishi. Oh, look what we got here. State Street right here. Berkshire Hathaway. That's Warren Buffett. So he's another big player. But State Street, look at that right there. So they don't quite have the controlling shares, but they sure do got a lot. They got 10.91%. That's a big voting chunk right there. Why don't we look up Yamaha? That's a giant company. Master Trust Bank of Japan, who has their hands in that? Mitsubishi, which has huge hands with State Street, which is BlackRock and Vanguard, right? All right, now Yamaha. Now, see, I didn't know this. So we got Custody Bank of Japan. I'm curious about that. I bet you that everything's going to lead back to BlackRock and Vanguard. Everything. So Yamaha Corporation, Toyota Motor Corporation. Let's look up Toyota. Because everybody's like, buy American, light, I die, Toyota's Japanese. They build Toyotas, Nissans, and Hondas in America. And they're outsourcing American car companies in other countries. Frankly, then everybody's like, well, it's just the rich CEOs, I die. Look, these people are international. They're international criminals, frankly, most of them. All right, Master Trust Bank of Japan, Toyota, Custody Bank of Japan, Nippon Life Insurance, JP Morgan Chase. Now, see, that's a big one right there. State Street right there. Look at that. Now, let's look up Custody Bank of Japan. Okay, so we got the Daiichi Life Insurance Company. That's the top shareholder there. Let's look up this. Master Trust Bank of Japan. BlackRock right there. See it? See it? Within the top five, and these are international companies, but every publicly traded company in America, every one of them. Let's look up Wendy's. Well, we got the Tryon Fund Management holding at 30.45 million shares. All right. It's about 15.98% ownership. But then you got BlackRock, 11.41% ownership, plus 9.26 right here. And I think we got a winner. It's going to be close, but these two have about equal footing. However, then we got Morgan Stanley. Let's look up Morgan Stanley. That's Mitsubishi. Wow. But who do we decide? Mitsubishi? Oh, yeah. State Street, because State Street's number two on this, too. And they have controlling shares. Well, they have big voting shares, but look at that State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard. It does not matter, folks. You're being played, okay? We all know that politicians are all lobbied. I mean, every one of them, every single one of them. Most of them are big war companies or big oil companies or big pharma companies. Let's look at Exxon, big oil company, right? BlackRock, Vanguard. Oh, well, let's look at their competitors. Okay, we got to look at their competitors, right? So, who's a competitor? Citgo. Let's look at that. Okay, there's a PDV Holding, Amber Energy, Credit Consortium. Now, okay, PDV Holding. I want to look up this right here. Let's look up these guys. I don't know who they are. So, but I'm willing to bet I know who's got a hand in it. Elliott Investment, Paul Singer, okay, Gregory Goff, and Jeff Stevens. Okay, so let's look up. I've heard of this Paul Singer. Let's look this up. Paul Singer, Jonathan Pollock, Gordon Singer. Okay, so this one might not be publicly traded then. So let's look up Texaco. Texaco, the merger between Chevron and Texaco. Okay. So this doesn't look like it's publicly traded. But I bet you I know who has some public or some stake in it. I mean, banks finance things, right? So major top shareholders, Wells Fargo. Let's look that up. BlackRock, Vanguard. Okay. Let's look up Chase Bank. BlackRock, Vanguard. See, they control the money. They control the oil. Oh, how about food? Surely they don't control the food. Oh yeah, we just looked up Wendy's, McDonald's, Vanguard, BlackRock. I thought Wendy's and McDonald's were competitors. What about Burger King? Surely not Burger King. It's not a publicly traded company. Okay, so there you go. 3G Capital, Capital Research and Management. Okay, Pershing Square Capital Management. But I want to look at something here. Hold on. Capital Research and Management Company. Or let's just look up 3G Capital. Okay, so these are billionaires. All right. Hold on. Let's look at this. I'm just pulling this guy, this Jorge Pardo Liman. Okay. All right. How much BlackRock does this guy own? Does not own BlackRock. Wow. Huh. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Now, if you meant a different company where Jorge Paulo Lemon and BlackRock are both investors, such as Heinz, yeah, Kraft Heinz and Stoneco. Okay. Yeah. So, they're all in bed together. All right. So, hold on. Now, you notice how Kroger's taking over all the grocery stores in the country. I mean, it's like Kroger, Kroger, Kroger. Okay. So, BlackRock, Berkshire Hathaway. So BlackRock did surpass Warren Buffett. Then we got Vanguard, State Street. Would you look at that? I mean, literally, Kroger has taken over every grocery store. All right, so um, now I'm curious about something. Trader Joe's, because some of these, I didn't know if they were, so private ownership, the Albrecht family. Okay, and see, I love private companies. I really do. Um, but Aldi Nord, okay. So now, why don't we look up Nike? So we figured out they own our food. Okay, Swoosh LLC, Philip Knight, Travis Knight. So, oh, here we go. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. Look at that. All right. Why don't we look up Reebok? BlackRock. Shaquille O'Neal. Okay. Wow. Okay. Um, and then they got private, but it still is BlackRock. All right. So they own our shoes, right? Uh, Charmin toilet paper. Yeah. Oh, look at that. They own our ass too. Jeez. All right. Top shareholders of what about bottled water? Um Dasani. But that's Pepsi though, isn't it? Jeez. Berkshire Hathaway. That's Warren Buffett. And he's private. Now, he's got Berkshire Hathaway company. Um and then BlackRock and Vanguard. So they own our water. Well, maybe not. What about Evian? Okay. Oh, BlackRock. Look at that. Capital Research and Management. Oh, there's Vanguard. There's your BlackRock right there. Surprise, surprise. They own our water. Uh, Lockheed Martin. Surely they don't own our defense, too. I mean, they own our oil, right? Oh, State Street, then BlackRock, then Vanguard. Oh, then Charles Schwab. Look at that. How about Boeing? Vanguard. Oh, Fidelity Investments. Oh, and then BlackRock. Well, what about Fidelity Investments? The Johnson family controls 49%. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so that is private between their employees, it looks like, and in the Johnson family. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool. I like that. All right. So so they own our skies. Um, they own the cars. They own our food. They own our drinks. They own our water. They they own everything. Everything. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a publicly traded company, especially in America. Their hands are in it. They own it. So let's look up. See, they don't want people to know this stuff. Wait a minute. American antitrust laws are federal rules that keep businesses fair and stop unfair monopolies. The main three rules are the Sherman Act of 1890 and the Clayton Act of 1914 and the Federal Trade Commission Act of 1914. All right. Sherman Antitrust Act stops price fixing. Well, if they own everything, they can charge whatever the hell they want. They also own all the major real estate firms, everything. They own everything. Secret business deals. Well, they own all the boardrooms and illegal attempts to control a whole market by yourself. Well, folks, we looked at the beverage market. We looked at Walmart and Target, now, this stops big company mergers, unfair price cuts, and deals that hurt fair customer choice. So what do? So they buy Coca-Cola, they buy Pepsi, and they might throw State Street in there as one of them, then Vanguard, then BlackRock. Federal Trade Commission Act creates the watchdog group that checks for bad business tricks and tricks on buyers. Now, the politicians, the FTC has tried to go after BlackRock. So watch this. Just simple search. Why does BlackRock and Vanguard own everything and not held accountable? Okay, BlackRock and Vanguard do not actually own corporate America. They manage client money through passive index funds, but their massive voting influence has recently faced active legal accountability. Yeah, they might not own them, but when you get to put in who you want as a CEO and you say, hey, I'm going to put you in here, but I want this, it sounds a lot like local governments and federal government. Everybody's scratching each other's balls over here. So we got client money. The trillions they oversee belong to everyday investors, pension funds, retirement accounts, not the asset managers themselves. Yeah, but the asset managers are the ones that get to call the shots. And they're the ones that make the moves. Fiduciary rule, they act as a custodian or agents, meaning they hold shares on behalf of the public rather than owning the corporate profits. But they have, what does it say they have here? They have the voting. That's what counts, their massive voting influence. And if they know that they're going to put in a woke CEO to go to Harley Davidson and make the gay electric Harley, rainbow, what do they call it? Live wire, something like that. So, and then they start making Harleys in India and Mexico and crap like that. So guess what they did beforehand? They short sold it. So they might not control the money, but man, they just made billions and billions right there on those short sales. They control the businesses because these people have more money than they'd ever know, to shake a stick at. So federal courts rejected motions to dismiss these multi-state actions, and firms like Vanguard Group agreed to settlements restricting certain joint climate-focused engagements. And see, look at that. I mean, there's all kinds of lawsuits. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street don't own major. Oh, yeah. So CNBC saying, oh, they don't own these companies. Who owns CNBC? Hold on. Okay, we got Brian Roberts, Mark Lazarus, BlackRock. Oh, Capital Research Management, Vanguard, State Street. So I wondered, some of their controlling voting shareholders. Now, hold on, though. Hold on. Everything's fair, right? The news is accurate. Who owns CNN? Who's got the top shareholders that can vote in the new CEOs? Warner Brothers. Okay. Now, then we got BlackRock, then we got Vanguard, then we got State Street. Okay, well, let's look at who owns Warner Brothers. BlackRock, Vanguard. Jeez. Hold on. Let's go back to the news. Oh, we are back in the news. Fox News, because, CNN always lies, but Fox News will tell you the truth, right? They're not manipulated. And all y'all are distracted by Republicans and Democrats, and they're purposely picking the topics that are going to upset the other side the most and get people riled up, because in order to conquer, you must divide. Folks, if you want to learn basic rules of conquer and divide, just Sun Tzu's Art of War. It's centuries old book. Murdoch Family Trust owns Fox News. Okay. Whoa. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. Hmm. Geez. Hmm. Shareholders of ABC, Vanguard, and BlackRock. Would you look at that? What about the New York Times? They're good, right? Berkshire Hathaway. Cool. But then we got BlackRock. T. Rowe Price, Investment Management. So you still got BlackRock in there. Now, what about USA Today? So we got holding companies. There it is, BlackRock right there. They have huge voting shares in everything. I mean, they control everything. So you have approximately 200 media companies. All right. Um, well, let's just say 90% of them are controlled by about 200 people um, who answer to about six. That's what we're facing, folks. So they own a media. Um, yeah, they own all the information you receive, including the internet. Let's look at Spectrum. Liberty Broadband, Dodge and Cox. Oh, Vanguard, BlackRock. Whoa, okay. Never would have guessed that. Oh, so what about, well, we looked up Google, right? So what about Facebook? I mean, we know Zuckerberg owns a lot of Facebook, right? Um, okay, Meta platform. That's right. Oh, Mark Zuckerberg, Vanguard, and BlackRock. So when they want certain narratives to go out, for instance, anybody that might have had a problem with them shutting down businesses while major businesses like Facebook stayed open and control what everybody thought and said. I got put in Facebook jail in 2020 alone just for asking questions. I didn't even make statements. I was just asking questions, about all this stuff. And they'd put me in jail for 30 days at a time. I mean, it really affected my business bad. But when you got, Mark Zuckerberg with Vanguard and BlackRock. Well, what about hmm? Oh, Facebook. Well, they own Insta. Facebook's got their own monopoly, folks. YouTube's owned by Google. Uh, Alphabet Company owns Google, YouTube, all that stuff. But who are the top shareholders of Alphabet Company? Oh, geez, BlackRock and Vanguard. You got to be kidding me. What about Caterpillar? Do they own our tractors? Surely not. No. Oh, geez, BlackRock and State Street. Are you kidding me? This just seems a little rigged to me, folks. And you're over here bitching at each other. You're losing friendships. You're losing family members, and your eyes are closed until the people, especially the American people, stand up and say, "Why do these companies have control? Why do they have voting control of all these corporations?" Because this is officially now like a corporate oligarchy, really. I mean, BlackRock and Vanguard control everything. Well, um, how do you think the politicians get in? Corporate donors. Well, who owns all the corporations? It does not matter, folks. Democrats don't care about you. Republicans don't care about you. None of them care about you. I mean, we got until we, the people, stand up and we learn what's going on and we share this information, we've all been duped and we've all been divided successfully and conquered. We're screwed. I mean, BlackRock and Vanguard right now could shut down every company, every publicly traded company, and what do we do? You know, I mean, we got way too much control with who's that guy? That Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. Well, Let's look at Larry Fink. Crimes on humanity. Yeah, Vice right there. BlackRock should be seized for crimes against the earth. All right. Now, there are no formal or legal charges. Well, he owns everything. But we got fossil fuel investments, greenwashing accusations, defense contractor stakes. So let me tell you something else, too, that most people don't realize. Um, the Rothschilds family, they funded both sides of every single war since the Revolutionary War, folks. And you just saw that BlackRock and Vanguard have investments in Chinese defense and obviously American defense. So we're the largest two providers, but they fund again both sides of every single war. War is profit to them, and it's population control. So here he is with greenwashing. BlackRock funds genocide against Palestinians. Um, this guy, though, if Larry Fink calls the president or, a few guys in Congress says, hey, I need this done, guess what's going to happen? So why don't we just ask? Is Larry Fink the most powerful man in the world? Okay, they're saying he's definitely not, but one of the most influential figures. Well, I would say if he's controlling all these companies, I mean, here we have massive capital control. Of course, they're going to say that because who owns Google? And I'm looking up Google because I knew that it was owned by Larry Fink, right? But we got political and corporate access, global presidents, prime ministers, corporate boards, the Aladdin systems, and that's their technology. So, and he failed at one point, $100 million failure, but now he's got a $14 trillion empire. And you're telling me that's not the most powerful man in the world? I would say he is. He is single-handedly the guy that did that. Well, I'm curious. Is Larry Fink a friend of Donald Trump? Are not known to be close friends, but they have maintained a pragmatic, decades-long professional relationship as New York entrepreneurs. Sure, you're going to have that. BlackRock, is BlackRock the most powerful company in the world? Oh, BlackRock, this is AI overview. Owned by who? BlackRock is not the most valuable company by market capitalization, but is widely considered one of the most influential as the world's largest asset manager. It oversees massive capital, allowing it to exert significant sway over the corporate governance and strategic direction of major global businesses. I'm pretty sure, if they have controlling shares. All right, now this is funny. Now, who is richer, BlackRock or Vanguard? Well, who's Vanguard? No, they didn't say who Vanguard's largest shareholders are, did they? But BlackRock's largest shareholders is what? Vanguard? BlackRock and Vanguard do not have a traditional net worth because they are investment firms managing money for others, but their assets under management are roughly $14 trillion in BlackRock, $12 trillion for Vanguard. So, but BlackRock's largest shareholders who? Vanguard. So they're controlling $26 trillion? I mean, oh, wait a minute. Let's look at BlackRock's biggest rival. Oh, wait a minute. BlackRock's biggest rival is Vanguard alongside Key Pierce State Street. But together, these three dominate the global asset management. Hold on. Let's go back to something. Who is the largest shareholders of BlackRock? Vanguard and State Street. Jeez. So, and they're calling them competitors. Oh, look at that. Largest shareholder of State. Here we go. BlackRock, Vanguard. Oh, State Street. Jeez. All right. Well, FMR. Let's look up FMR. Uh, that's the Johnson family. That's right. That's right. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, these Johnson people are really rich too. So anyway, I really hope this opens up your eyes, folks. I'm just shooting the truth, and whenever people debate about politics or you know whenever they're talking about, well, I want these rights and I want these rights and I don't want this taken away. Hold on, though. Hold on, because they're always talking about gun control. Now, the biggest gun salesman ever in the history of America was Barack Obama, because he's always talking about gun control. So everybody go out and buy AR-15s, right? So why don't we look up Remington Arms? Okay, Remington Firearms. Okay, Round Hill Group. All right, so they're not publicly traded then. What about Winchester? Winchester Bank Corp. Okay. Oh, here we go. Top institutional Vanguard right there. Their fingerprints are on everything. All right, absolutely everything. Let's look up. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we look up. Any large company is controlled by them. I'm actually kind of curious. Tesla. I mean, that's Elon Musk, obviously. He's got. Oh, no way. Vanguard and BlackRock and State Street? Are you kidding me? Jeez. What about SpaceX? Surely they're independent, right? Alphabet. Elon Musk, the largest shareholder, but then he got Alphabet, which is Google, owned by who? BlackRock. Valor Equity Foundation Fund. Oh, right here. So they don't want BlackRock's name in here, so they send in Alphabet Incorporated. Well, who owns Alphabet? Who's the largest shareholder for Alphabet? I know we already looked this up, but oh, BlackRock and Vanguard. Folks, get your heads out of your ass. The real enemy is these mega funds that absolutely do, their major partners absolutely do have the voting rights for every major company CEO. Therefore, yes, they do own all these major companies. And therefore, yes, they do own all the politicians. I mean, why don't we do this? What percentage of politicians in America are influenced by lobbyists? There's no official percentage or exact scientific metric measuring. But 73% of American adults believe lobbyists and special interest groups have too much influence over members of Congress. I mean, we got billions of dollars are spent annually by corporations, unions, and interest groups. So, if BlackRock and Vanguard control all of these companies, and these companies are making huge donations to political campaigns, and then we got the news channels and stuff covering them. I mean, who controls everything? BlackRock and Vanguard. Now, I'm just curious. Do we know any major investors in Vanguard? See, they always, always, always hide this. But They have clients such as Apple, Microsoft, all that. So Vanguard, it's very yeah, very secretive, isn't it? Who is the main? Well, all right. American Vanguard Corporation, BlackRock right there. I see that right there. Okay. So they keep this very, very hush hush. Anyway, I know I've gone on for a really long time with this, but I'm showing you on Google. I'm not making any of this up. I'm showing you on Google exactly where the real problem is. If this is not antitrust, I don't know what is. But we cannot have these mega funds controlling every publicly traded company pretty much in the world. And then George Soros did the same thing with short selling currency. And he had the Magellan Fund. He bankrupted the Bank of England. He caused a whole shit storm down in South America fairly recently. And that's why he had problems with Venezuela and stuff like that. He's done that all over the world. And he does that a lot of times in America. A lot of this stuff, I'm going to tell you guys, the Antifa cause, you kids are useful idiots to them. I'm just being totally honest with you. You're useful idiots. They're trying to quote unquote spread socialism, but why is it that pallets of bricks are being laid out for you to throw at buildings and stuff? Why is it that the police are standing down? Why is it that there's masks and stuff conveniently handed out? Who's paying for that? I would imagine somebody that might be short selling American currency might be doing that. Somebody that wants to cause a lot of strife and division and discord in this country. And a lot of that funding goes back to George Soros, and I'm telling you, they're all evil. All of them are evil. Look, I want you to be successful as an individual. I want you to go out. I want you to get your own thing. I want you to do what you love doing. I want to be successful. I'm rooting for you, but not at the cost of the misery of others. That's when I have a problem right there. When you're making money off the misery of other people, that's just fundamentally wrong. And now you know who controls everything. BlackRock and Vanguard. They are the real problem. That is who we need to focus on. Not politicians, not stupid division shit, none of that. None of that. We got to go after BlackRock and Vanguard. And the only way we can do that is standing up in numbers, because there are a lot more of us than there are them. But we're going to have to stand up if we want control of our own country back, because right now they own our politicians and everything. Why do you think the vaccines, for instance? Okay, hold on. Let's look at that. Every time I think I'm done. We know Johnson and Johnson. Okay. BlackRock, Vanguard. Oh, geez. Wasn't there Merck? Wasn't that one of them? Vanguard and BlackRock. Geez. So BlackRock owned the other one. They were the biggest one, then Vanguard. But this one's Vanguard, then BlackRock. I thought they were competitors. Why were they bribing so many people to take this vaccine? Somebody paid for that, didn't they? Really makes you wonder. But they all said that it's science. We need to trust science and not corporations. Listen, if you're a scientist and you're being paid by this corporation, let's say, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, or $2 million a year, whatever, and they tell you, we want you to research to get this result, you don't think money could, possibly circumvent the truth, do you? No. Money and power doesn't corrupt, nothing like that. No. Look, folks, you're all being duped. And it's all by the same group of people. And it really goes back to like the top 20, 30 bloodlines going back years. But that starts to sound like conspiracy theory, but not really. You got the Rothschilds and, the Windsors. I mean, there's that is a fact. Okay. So anyway, really think about what's actually going on. That's my whole point to all this. I'm Jimmy Hudson. I approve this message.